On the biggest stage in the world, FanDuel is changing the game because sometimes your player gets subbed off and your bet goes with them. Not anymore. With FanDuel Super Sub, if your player's subbed out, your bet stays in. That's right. If your player leaves the match, your bet continues on with the substitute. So you're still in it until the final whistle. Visit FanDuel.com. Get started now. Let there be goals this summer on FanDuel.
21 plus select states for Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino. 18 plus DCKYWY. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-MY-RESET. 888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org/chat. Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Maryland. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org. Call 800-327-5050. Massachusetts. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Text HOPE-NY in New York. Call 877-770-7867. Louisiana.
Visit FanDuel.com. Get started now. Let there be goals this summer on FanDuel.
This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
We'll be here until, 5 a.m. And I'm so happy to be with you. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. My friends, one of the things I think is interesting about the show is we all like to impart upon you that which we find interesting. Dr. Sky certainly imparts his incredible and inane wisdom and levels of interest regarding what he finds interesting. And of course, when somebody finds something interesting, you will find them interesting as well. For the most part, I hope. Tonight, the Knickerbockers beat the Spurs 94-90, I believe. And they have, for the first time in 73 years, 53 years, they have won the championship. Okay. Now, that is, of course, great. It's good news. Makes people happy, provided there's no rioting, provided there's no violence. But I have this thought experiment that I use on a regular basis, and it goes something like this. I have been entrusted to explain how we humans work to somebody from a different planet or solar system, and I say, let me explain this thing to you. And he asks me, or it asks me, telepathically, most probably they will not speak any type of vocalization. It'll be telepathic. That's why their mouths, at least for the critters, tend to be so small. It's telepathic. But I would ask the question. They would ask me, what is this event? And this evening, I was listening. I had the windows open, and I hear screaming, and I'm kind of following along, kind of tangentially. I'm actually watching old Ken Burns documentaries on World War II, the Revolutionary War. That's what I watch, and I'm not going to explain to you my viewing habits, but they're bizarre compared to most people. But anyway, as people are screaming outside, reminded me of during the COVID period when every night at 7 o'clock people would open up their windows and bang pots. It was one of the saddest moments of complete and total cultural subjugation. I can remember we were like barking seals in an act, like a circus act. It was so sad. But I would explain to my friend that I was entrusted to explain our human ways. I would say this is the first time in 53 years that this team has won a national championship. And which is interesting, but something long absent returns. This isn't just nostalgia. It's sociology. And if you really want to see, go back and watch something, remember when the Red Sox won after the curse of the Bambino, and oh my God. But this is about sociology. This is human behavior at its best. Sociology, psychology, anthropology, all kind of rolled into one. Human beings, we, no matter how great we are tribal creatures. And sometimes these atavistic tendencies of ours come out. We love rituals, symbols, symbology, semiotics. We love the way we shake hands, and religion, certain colored robes, and incest and incense, excuse me. Not incense or incest, excuse me. And who cares about bugs anyway? But I digress. No, but we love this. But the rituals and the symbols, all of these moments, it tells us that we belong to something larger than ourselves. It's in us, and it must be from something that is, at least from an evolutionary point of view, beneficial. And that's why ancient civilizations built colosseums and held parades, staged spectacles. I mentioned to you, of course, you know the Roman poet Juvenal called it bread in circuses. Give people food, entertainment, and a shared emotional experience, and society finds some kind of cohesion. It was so interesting. Dear friends of mine from Ireland who came to this country, one in particular said, I don't know anything about baseball, but I want to root for a team. He lived in Sunnyside or Woodside or wherever, and he became a Mets fan, and he went and he immediately bought all of the apparel, all of the various clothings and all of the indications of such, and he says, I'm going to be a Mets fan. And that's how he became an American. And he went to this, to Shea Stadium at the time, and he said, I don't know anything about your country, but I'm going to share this with you. And immediately, by his showing people that I'm interested in your pastime, it was instant brotherhood. I'll never forget that. It was so interesting. And I always tell people, if you're an expat and you are in another country, find yourself rooting for the local football team or what have you. But there's a deeper level here. As you know, we live in an age right now, an epoch of fractured attention. Families watch different screens, neighbors inhabit different realities. Sometimes we live for years in neighborhoods and never talk to somebody who lives next door to us. Politics has become a kind of a substitute religion, and social media has completely atomized us and transformed us into tribes of one. So when a tradition returns after more than half a century, it's not merely an event, it's a reunion with this collective shared memory that many people don't even realize that they missed or didn't know. And for that moment, again, if they're not rioting, people who don't normally share anything in common, either by virtue of race or gender or sexuality or zip code, for that moment, everybody's the same. Now, we're also starved for meaning. We binge watch shows because myths are gone. We obsess over, and some people do, over fandoms, fans, and stars because tribes have disappeared. We wear logos because uniforms once signaled identity, going back again, tribalism. And the return of something after 53 years is a reminder, I guess, in some respects. I don't want you to think I'm being too deep, but I don't think I've even scratched deep enough. It's that people desperately want some kind of continuity in this culture or lack of that's obsessed with novelty. And psychologically, all of this triggers what researchers call collective effervescence. I love this. It's like that, who was it? Greenspan said, irrational exuberance. This is collective effervescence. And the term means, it's defined loosely as that kind of an electric feeling of sharing emotional experience with thousands or millions of others. This is another thing we do. This is why it's so different and important to enjoy movies, concerts, stadia, sports, because you become part of this organic whole. You're not just an individual. You're an atom, you're granular, you're corpuscular, whatever the word you want to use. But we love that. You can enjoy a movie better in a movie theater with a big screen and people around you than you can just watching it on the screen. You know it's true. The sad part is a lot of young people don't. And it's the same force behind championship parades, or, rock concerts, or religious revivals, national holidays, for just this one little singular moment. Individuals stop being isolated members or consumers, and they become part of this common story. And maybe who knows? Maybe that's the real reason. Bread and circus is never just. It was never just about distractions. It was about our way of reminding people that you're not alone. We're part of this thing. It's very interesting. And that's why some animals are lone wolves. Some travel in packs. Some aren't. Some are very singular. It's interesting. The cetacean animals, bottlenose dolphins and orcas and porpoises, they have a larger paralimbic system in their brain, which allows them to feel loss. And that's why they have to stay together. That's why it's so cruel when you separate whales from pods. Now, there's also something interesting. The same forces that create unity can also unleash, and this is also interesting, chaos. When a team wins a championship, people sometimes don't merely celebrate a game. They experience what people call de-individualization or de-individuation. This is that Gustave Le Bon crowd theory. This is the temporary loss of individual identity within a crowd. You would never overturn a car alone. Well, you can't. But sometimes when you're together with others, you feel anonymous. You're empowered. You're emotionally fused with others. And by the way, this is why many times they would ask people, why are you looting? Why are you looting? And some people would honestly say, well, I'm looting to get a new stereo or whatever the particular item is. But later on, other people said, I really don't know. I really don't know. I can't really answer that. I'm not sure. Because you're part of this. That's the whole notion of crowd theory. You lose this individual self, and then you become part of the larger group. Crowds can be good. Crowds can be bad. Crowds can be terrific when sometimes, remember, every now and then you'll hear about a story of a car that flips over and somebody's trapped underneath, and all of a sudden usually men, strapping types, will come out of buildings. They don't even know each other, but they will jump into this collective cause of lifting up the car, moving, trying to rescue somebody. It's incredible. It makes me, nobody knows why they're doing it. And it's so great to see that. Whenever there was a child stuck in a well, or and this is all over the world, people all of a sudden said, I've got to do something here. Same thing for calls to war, calls to stop behaviors. So this is a wonderful thing, and it's great. I personally, it is alien to me. I'm glad they won, but I never felt any kind of excitement or giddiness. I have no connection to a professional team whatsoever. None. It's like me watching somebody fish. It's okay. I don't understand it. I don't connect to it. It's like one of those things I just don't understand it. Walking around with a shirt, with a team. It's not so much. Some people, I can't tell you the number of Yankees fans who I think are just children. I mean, seriously, children. And growing up in Florida, as I call it, Florida Gators are the most obnoxious people you've ever met. They think they're superior, and it's just, but it's a fascinating subject. So, my friends, we have a lot to discuss. And the first question is, again, your thoughts and theories about why is it that we just lose ourselves? And also, when we look at the teams, when we look at who, we fought to break the color barrier. And I think it was wonderful in baseball. Got some of the greatest players of all time. Talk about stupid. But if anybody, if this hypothetical person I'm talking to from another planet, if I were to say, look at all these players, what do you notice about them? I think they would say, well, they're very tall compared to most people. That's true. You see any Cambodians on the team? No, I don't. Interesting. Why do you think that is? Maybe the height connection? Yes. And what about race? Does that play any role whatsoever? Does anybody even suggest? Or is it possible that certain aspects of our society are better at things than others? Oh, dear God, did I just say that? I most certainly did. Our number is 800-848-9222. This is Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight. Ah, yes. Still one of the unheralded greats, Chicago. 25 or 6-4, the great Bobby Lamb song. That song is about a songwriter who is frustrated because he is unable to write a song. And he's trying his best, and he happens to wonder what time it is. He looks up, and it's 25 or 26 minutes to 4 in the morning, which is great radio time, by the way. Anyway, 800-848-9222. You know, whenever I always have been a proponent of this, and people get very upset with me because I'm not supposed to say this. But I think there are, ready for this? I think there are differences between men and women. This may come as a shock to you, but I think there are differences. I think there are differences not only physically, physiologically, in terms of physiognomy and morphology and musculature and strength, but also in terms of temperament, emotions, diabolical nature. Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. And anybody who doesn't know this has not lived. And then there's this idea, there's this myth of this idea that somehow we all are the same. There's no difference. It goes back, not so much affirmative action, but DEI to an extent, but even that was kind of a misnomer. The idea is that we are not the same. We are not the same. We are different. And I always wondered, what happens if for some reason we found out that there was a group of people who might be better at something, not just different. So right now, in the human populations, we are not in any way identical in every trait whatsoever, period. But neither are there reducible, stereotypes. So in the NBA, roughly 70% of players have historically been black Americans. 70%. In elite distance running, athletes from certain East African populations, especially groups such as the Kalenjin of Kenya and the Oromo of Ethiopia, they have been disproportionately successful in world-class marathons. What does this mean? It means that biology and culture and geography and opportunity all kind of interact. I find the East African runners to be the most interesting. In fact, we have not had, I forgot the statistics, we have not had a non-African winner of any major marathon race in, I don't know, ever. I think in the first 500 or the numbers, I don't have it offhand, but when people grow up in high altitude, there might be some type of conferring of some physiological advantage. There's cultural traditions that value running, create role models, economic incentives that encourage people to pursue the sport. Also physical characteristics that may, on an average, be advantageous. There are differences in the gastrocnemius, in the musculature of the calf muscle. If you look at the calf, look at the leg structure of, for example, an NBA player versus other sports where there is like a thinner calf to make the legs almost like whips. They can move faster. And in fact, in the world of bodybuilding, historically, they noticed that there might be a difficult time by the way of muscle insertion. Now, when you say this, this is all documented. There's nothing remotely even interesting or characteristically problematic. But we are different. And different is perfect. Different is fine. Different is okay. You don't see too many Cambodians in the NBA because of the fact that they don't tend to be over 7 feet tall. The number of 7 feet tall players, by the way, now there's more 7 feet tall people in the population than there ever was. By the way, if you really want to see somebody's physiology, or physiognomy, I should say, look at Michael Phelps, the swimmer. He has the same inseam. He's like 6'3" or 2" or whatever. He's a big, tall guy. But he has the same inseam of his pants as a rather, diminutive by comparison, shorter, long-distance runner. His length is in his trunk. So when he comes off the block, he explodes by virtue of his physiology, his physiognomy, I should say. Okay. Now you know that, and I know that, and we know that. But some people get very upset because they don't like the idea of you suggesting that there are differences. So I ask this question, and let me give you this question, and you just answer this, yes or no. Is it possible? Let me say this again. Is it possible? Because whenever you look at something, the first question you should always ask is this even remotely possible? If it's not possible, why even bother discussing it? But is it possible that we might find groups of people, geographically, racially, in terms of age maybe, gender, sexuality, that are different, where one seems to be advantaged compared to somebody else? Is it possible that Asian samples are better at mathematical and spatial reason? Not always, but a significant difference. Could a group of people, you pick it, whether it's geographic, whether it's gender, might be better musically, might be better intellectually, might be better in terms of storytelling, might be better in terms of resolution, advancement. Are there others that tend to be more violent, more angry, maybe negative? The thing I'm saying is, if we're different and we embrace certain type of differences, why can't there be differences that are absolutely guaranteed true, but we may not like that? Where do we get off with this notion of equality? Why does that bother anybody? Why? Why is it? Why do you think there's this ridiculous nature? Let me ask you this question. There has been, for the longest time, people say, wow, that's stereotypical. Gay men have predominantly, maybe not now, maybe it's a different story, but there was a time at least when they absolutely filled the ranks of hairdressers, interior decorators, very, very creative fashion designers. And why? Why is that? That doesn't mean, remember, it doesn't mean everybody who's gay is talented in that, but why is, if you saw a greater number of, let's say, nuclear physicists who were left-handed, you would happen to, you would point that out as well. So the question I have, and this is just thinking because this is critical. This is where I love this the most, because it's kind of mysterious, the traits that we have and how we put it this way. If it wasn't for your ability to express that talent, it wouldn't matter. For example, Nolan Ryan, I think if there wasn't baseball, he'd probably be, robbing gas stations. I kid, of course, when I say that, but he's not, I don't know, I don't remember him, but he doesn't come across as some heavy intellect. But for some reason, God or nature gave him a particular rotator cuff, a particular, physiognomy, an architecture of his arm that allowed the right torque and speed and durability like nobody else. He was born with this. There are people who are pitch perfect, people who are musically inclined. But if it wasn't for baseball, you would never know this. If there wasn't something called music, you would never know who would be beneficial. And if there was not something called basketball or some type of athletic prowess where you had to combine height with grace, you may not even reckon it. You may not recognize this. And because of artificial intelligence, we're also asking right now, what is it that these people have that maybe we might want to consider? For example, is it possible to find out what type of predisposition certain gay men have had? I'm being just blunt to find out what is it. And if artificial intelligence can figure out, we've learned how to mimic, how to replicate that particular learning style, because after all, it's just a learning model, LLMs and others. So the implications are huge. The number is 800-848-9222. The question I have is very, very simple. When are we going to put to bed or bury the notion of equality? We are not equal. We should be treated in terms of equality, whereas we receive the same abilities. We're not foreclosed from entering, restrooms or entering public office. Yeah, that's okay. But equity is the worst of the worst. But we are not the same. We are not the same. And if you wanted to do, for example, radio, let's say, for example, consulting, be careful of consultants. Anywho, but you would say, well, I would consult a talk radio differently than I would, let's say, sports radio, than I would an urban morning show. Why? Well, I've got to know what the audience likes and what the audience doesn't like. Are the audiences different? Yes. Will I take into account race and culture? Yes. And gender? Yes. And income? Yes. But wait a minute, I thought everybody was equal. Oh, no, they're not. See, that's okay then. This is the thing which always drives me the most nuts. How people believe there's this idea of equality. There is no such thing. I don't want to live in a world where there's equality, where everybody's the same. It's ridiculous. There are some people who will do things better or worse, depending upon how you look at it, than others, and there's no way around it. And we have, by virtue of this, I don't want to use these terms all the time, leftist, but there's this lunacy out there that believes that everybody's the same. No, you're not. None. You're not at all. You're not even remotely the same. You see, this also gets into this notion which I wanted to discuss yesterday, but I want to kind of ease into now. Speaking of psychology, there are things that we do, that humans do, that we do, and we see it all the time in government, we see it in politics, we see it in presidents, we see it all the time. And the first one is this wonderful concept called cognitive dissonance. Now, in my realm, my acolytes, my friends, we know this big time. This is that feeling that people get when the facts as evident conflict with their beliefs. And instead of changing beliefs, they rationalize away the facts. You will make reality fit your wishes and hopes and dreams. Look at this case recently. We talked about Carmelo Anthony. Some of the most disjointed logic I've ever heard about his almost not being responsible for taking the life of that young man, but instead him being the victim of race. It was race, and somehow the jury, this alleged non-white jury, that caused the result, not his overwhelming guilt. And then you talk about people, you've heard this before, the Dunning-Kruger effect. And it makes complete sense. This is the postulate that says that the less somebody knows about a subject, the more likely they are to overestimate their own expertise. I see this all the time, specifically in political expression and political opinions. Oh my God. Not only do they overestimate their expertise, but they underestimate their ignorance. And what happens is whenever you're in a media situation and somebody puts a microphone in front of you and you're paid to opine, you really start to believe in what you're saying. You really believe, you start to believe that what you are saying is somehow correct because you don't realize how little you know. 800-848-9222. Where has this young man been, Vincent? Wherefore art thou? Why hast thou forsaken me, Vincenzo?
It's a pleasure to hear your voice again, and I'm finally catching up with you. And when I look in the papers at the advertisements for Mr. Catsimatidis shows on 77, first I thought it was Friday night you were on, and then I just I came in and I just turned on the radio, and it's great to hear your voice.
Well,
Lionel, as I told you,
I've missed you. I've missed you.
I missed you too, man. Glad to hear your voice again. Great. Lionel, some of these are stereotypes that change over time. Nowadays, we think that, all people in the creative arts, whether it's music or whatever have you, the stage arts, are gay, whereas 200 years ago, that wasn't the case at all. Bach had 17 kids, Haydn had a bunch of kids, and so forth and so on. And of the classical composers, the only two composers who were known to be gay was Schubert and Franz Poulenc. And as far as the talent goes, Mozart, upon his death, Mozart's ears were much bigger than the average human being, so that probably contributed to the fact that he was able to hear a composition once and he could play it verbatim.
Well, it couldn't, like they say, it couldn't hurt. Let's take you, for example. I'm sure when you've been traveling the world, you've been someplace, let's say you roll into someplace in Saginaw, Michigan, God forbid, somebody hears you. And they hear this Italian feller, this Sicilian feller, perhaps, named Vincent, and he's from Brooklyn, and he sounds like somebody may look at you, and what's the first thing they're going to think based upon culture?
Well, like a girlfriend of mine 50 years ago, her mother said, I don't want my daughter going out with some Sicilian gangster. I swear to God, that's one of the first things she said. And this was a nice Jewish girl from Kingsbridge Avenue up in the Bronx, across the street from the Stella D'Oro Bakery up there. And, I've gotten that, a lot of times in my life. And they don't know the whole story. They don't know my background. They don't know my education. And I'll leave it at that,
Right,
it adds interest to all of it.
But see, that's what happens.
Lionel, I have a friend in Italy. He has a family, he has a wife, 2 kids, and yet he has a hairdressing shop for women, and he's not gay at all. So that breaks, that shatters a little bit that stereotype. But then again, on the other hand, I've known a lot of hairdressers, not barbers, hairdressers who were gay. So I think the stereotype changes over time. I really, really do. And as far as, for example, like when Jalen Brunson in the last game that they lost, that French dude who was like 7'4", well, that guy was born to play basketball. What else is he going to do? He's 7'4". And another thing, that they were thinking about a while back ago, raising in professional basketball, raising the height of the hoop, because when the game was originally conceived, it was conceived at the the Jewish Young Hebrew organization, and most of the players 100 years ago were young Jewish men, and they weren't the height of a lot of these African Americans. So, and I've heard that they should raise up the basket, because you see these guys, they go over and they lob the ball right in.
But it was Naismith and others. But let's talk about also something about Italian stereotypical, by virtue of movies and that sort of thing. In 1972, when The Godfather came out, it changed, as many people know, it changed the complexion or the way people viewed this particular segment of society. Remember, prior to Joe Valachi, they thought that Francesco Castillo was an Irishman. They had no idea. They didn't know anything. They might have suspected. But all of a sudden, when The Godfather came out, this cemented almost the stereotypical character, which actually was seen then in real life. Because up till now, in American theater or movies, gangsters are always like Richard Widmark, the Jimmy Cagney, the thug, the guy on the corner. But the idea of there being a hierarchy, of somebody being a boss or being a head of a family, it changed everything. So it's interesting how our perceptions of things change drastically. For you to not understand stereotypes is for you to understand that stereotypes come, at least initially, based upon a kernel of truth. Yeah. There's something there, and then how it's expanded. So what I say is embrace it, prepared to be surprised. But Vincent, we are different. We have traits. Some people are better at things. And by the way, everybody, you may have a talent for a sport or some particular behavior that is yet to be developed.
Right.
I mean, if it wasn't for basketball,
I have perfect pitch, Lionel. Always had it all my life. I have perfect pitch. If I hear something, I don't need to go over to a piano and reference that note. I have perfect pitch. I was born with it.
That is so interesting. I'm trying to find out my particular talent. Mine, it's somewhere. I don't know what it is. Vincent, my good friend, I've missed you. I wish you were well. How is your health? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling okay. I've been having some dental problems. I have to go to the dentist every week to get work done. I'm having my crowns and bridges replaced, and it's aside from the expenses. I mean, I could deal with that, but it's uncomfortable. Getting all these injections and everything, and it's been, my teeth have been the bugbear of my life. And I would tell anybody, especially young people, take care of your teeth. You only get one set of teeth.
And also floss, because of the connections between
heart disease,
inflammation, absolutely. Vincent, ti voglio bene assai.
Anch'io, Lionel, anch'io. Ciao,
ci
buona
vediamo
serata.
dopo.
Ciao.
Thank you. Ci vediamo dopo, subito. Let's go back to the phones, back to the fun. Let's go to Loretta in Brooklyn. Loretta, you're on another side of Midnight with Lionel. Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Lionel. How are you?
Beautiful. How are you?
I'm doing well. What you were talking about before, I just figured we're all different flowers from the same garden. We're supposed to be different from each other.
I think that's a beautiful thought.
Women will never be equal to each other, because women, I have to say about my own sex, we're cats. We're catty.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have different theories. I have different theories on that. Women, always an exception, but women are not as gregarious. And I think so much of what God, nature, had two genders, believe it or not. And I always say God flipped a coin and women lost. They said, you're going to come forward. You're going to bring the children. You're going to have to watch them. So we're going to make you more vicious, more suspicious, more careful. We don't want you to forget any slight. Why? Because women who think like that are better mothers than men. And I always say this with all due respect, Loretta, and I don't mean any, but I've said this, and I think people have copied it, and it's true. Men are stupid, but women are crazy. Women are crazy, but men are stupid. Men are just ridiculous.
You are terrific.
It's true. Listen, my darling, I thank you so much for calling. Thank you so much, Martin.
Thank you.
In upstate New York, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Hello, Lionel.
Hello, Martin.
You're absolutely right. Women are crazy and men are stupid. I can tell you from experience. But
I think you just have.
Well, anyway, Vincent rocks. I like Vincent.
Absolutely.
He's a good guy. So
indeed, sir.
My thing is, well, I agree with you that we're not equal. We're not all equal. We have traits that are different. We have some people more intelligent than other people. Like Elon Musk, for example. He's a very intelligent guy, and now he's got to be a trillionaire at this point. It's because he's a pretty smart guy. Then you got these morons.
Is he smart because he's rich, or rich because he's smart?
He's rich because he's smart.
Okay.
I think so. Anyway,
are all smart people rich, and are all rich people smart?
Well, I'm smart and I'm not rich, so no.
Okay.
But anyway, you got these morons. Whether the Knicks win or whether they lose, they feel compelled to go out and destroy things. I mean, these people are really stupid people.
Why do they do that? Explain that to me.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a moron. I can't explain it. So I don't know.
You don't have to share the trait of something to be able to identify. Why is it that people do this? It's one of those things that I never. And by the way,
maybe it's a mob mentality, perhaps mob mentality.
Yes,
Everybody else is doing it. Let's all do it together.
Exactly. It's groupthink. Absolutely. And you also lose your individual sense. Martin, I thank you for that. You lose your individual sense of responsibility, and you give yourself up to the collective morality of the group. We're going to talk about this and also more perception and the realities of life, all of that coming up on Another Side of Midnight, 800-848-9222 with me, Lionel.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Alrighty, Lionel with you, 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. We're talking about, among other things, inter alia, as we say. I love this. First of all, I don't get offended. I might get mad, but I don't get offended. Nothing really offends me. And I don't understand why people would think that we are not all different, and that sometimes that difference is because of who we are and how we're born and traits that we have. And if you don't think there are differences in physiology, physiognomy, intelligence, talent, for a variety of different reasons, if you don't think that is, the question is, when it's attributed to something, that makes a difference. You understand this? Let's go to Michael in New York. Michael, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Hi, Lionel. To your point earlier about different cultures and different attributes, one of the things I found, and even one of your callers said he had perfect pitch, one of the things I learned or heard a while back was that Japanese, in general, have perfect pitch at a rate of around 30%, where the rest of the world has perfect pitch at about 3%. So that is beyond a statistical anomaly. And one of my guesses is that, as I understand it, I don't speak Japanese, but pitch and intonation actually is a big part of the language. Words could mean different things based on the intonation of it. So I wanted to throw my 2 cents in, and
But do you think that maybe the reason why there are people who are better at, let's see, who are pitch perfect, and you can mention intonation, because in order to speak that, you have to develop it, as opposed to Japanese people are born with it. See, that's a different story. There are people who, different cultures, you might be able to appreciate certain things. You might have different sensitivities to light, to whatever it is, based upon where you're born. But the idea that whenever we talk about why there's a predominance of black people in the NBA, and it was so interesting, there was a time when, of course, because of racial stupidity, Bob Cousy, John Havlicek, once black players came in with Bill Russell and Will Chamberlain, it just changed completely. And the thing is, now, is there something? Not all black people are talented athletically, of course not. But when you see something, when I can look and say, what do you notice? You can say, well, they're tall and they're mostly black. Is it cultural? Is it because they're able to? This is something that in this particular culture, where basketball is you're more adept to it, the same way that golf or other particular sports were. Have you ever noticed why is there there were moves to to teach black kids how to swim, because the rates of drowning, there was this disdain for swimming and all of these. And whenever you dared to say this, people went to their immediate, their knee-jerk reaction and say, it must be racial. It's not racial. We're different. I remember one time, by the way, thank you for your call. I remember listening one time to a fellow talking about how fashion designers, this was men's clothing, how certain clothes, the cuts of certain clothes are different depending upon a style, depending upon not all black men, but some were different. There's something called steatopygia. And this is absolutely documented in some particular groups, some particular aspects. There is a large, not as large, kind of redundant, but a propensity for large glutes, different musculature, completely. You've seen this. Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. But what I'm saying is, for you not to see this, it means you're not paying attention. You're not paying attention. I one time said, explain to me the differences between just looking Chinese. I had a friend of mine who could do this. Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and other variations. And my friend who's Chinese says, I can tell you immediately. Because they're more attuned to it. This isn't racist. See, that's the part I want people to break. Embrace the subject. It's this diversity. You were talking about diversity. It doesn't get more diverse than this. Coming up, the tricks and the mind games that we play in crafting reality. Some of the most fascinating things that humans do. All coming up on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. 800-848-9222. Stay tuned, my friends.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Alrighty, Lionel with you. Hour number 2 of this thing of ours. Our number is 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. There's a fellow by the name of David Epstein. David Epstein does a number of TED Talks. You must see him. You can go on YouTube and watch him. And he talks about how athletic performance, how it's changed over the years. And a couple things which is very interesting. If you take American men, listen to this fact, between, let's say, 20 and 40 years old, who are at least 7 feet tall, okay? Roughly 15 to 20% have played in the NBA at some point. That's a fact. Think about that. The probability an average American male plays in the NBA is roughly 1 in several thousand. The probability of a healthy 7-footer in the NBA is 1 in 5. It's not because 7-footers are better people. It's because basketball, of course, rewards height. Listen to this one, another one, these facts, which I find so interesting. This is the notion of how the dominance of East African runners, it could be altitude, fast twitch muscles, who knows. And whenever you speak of musculature, people get crazy because they're thinking, oh my God, this is the way they treated black slaves and men like cattle. And they say, no, we're talking about reality. So anyway, today the men's marathon record is held by Kenyan runner Sebastian Sawe, S-A-W-E, at 1:59:30. It was set in London in April of this year. Okay, the second fastest marathon ever is by Ethiopian runner Yomif Kejelcha, 1:59:41. Think about that. 1:59, it's 11 seconds. Before them, the record was held by Kenyans Kelvin Kiptum and Eliud Kipchoge. In fact, the men's world record has been held continuously by Kenyan or Ethiopian athletes for nearly 2 decades. The concentration of the very top is extraordinary. One recent analysis found that 19 of the 20 fastest marathon times ever were run by athletes from Kenya or Ethiopia. And 89 of the top 100 performances belong to runners from those two countries. It's incredible. Now, what does that mean? Nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that there may be a difference. How about this? How about Michael Phelps? Michael Phelps, he looked a little fordo, a little stonad, but still he was good, excellent. His physiology and physiognomy, his morphology, was incredible. He was 6'4". His wingspan was about 6'7", longer than his height. His wingspan. He had short legs for his height, reducing drag. He had large hands and feet functioning almost like paddles, extraordinary shoulder flexibility, and he produces unusually low amounts of lactic acid during exercise. He was a freak. Now, we also look at these things, which is very interesting. Jesse Owens, because you say, how would he compare today? In 1936, Jesse Owens ran the 100 meters in 10.3 seconds on a cinder track wearing primitive spikes. You had to bring your own trowel so you can dig a little hole for you to put your foot into to take off. Today we have different substances or different track surfaces that cause more of a bouncy kind of a feel. And this David Epstein notes that if you account for modern starting blocks, track surfaces, shoes, training methods. Jesse Owens' performance would compare well, if not better, to later eras. In fact, the point is that Jesse Owens would beat today's sprinters, but that technology and training made the difference. So it's fascinating. So when you see Jesse Owens, yep, him, I find it incredible. I love the differences between men and women. I think they're the most. If you don't know this, there's no help for you. And if there's one thing that a father can do for his son in particular, daughters too, but son, you can say, let me explain women to you. and when you say this, people go, what are you getting at? I'm not even going to apologize. If you don't know the difference, how they are, you could see almost immediately. There is a propensity, a predisposition, a proclivity, a penchant, a penchant, as they say, for girls to love mommies and dolls and carriages without anybody telling them. It's almost hardwired. There was a study years ago where if you gave blocks to little boys, the boys would stack the blocks up. See how high they could stack them. Women spread the blocks out, almost like making a home. Women are far quicker in terms of verbal development than men. Absolutely. And men tend to be serial killers and criminals. Women don't. But if ever there was somebody that showed a ferocity, the likes of which you can't even imagine. Look at nature and what a woman, what the distaff or the female version is. You know, lions or any kind of predator, they don't get mad. But a mother, a female mother, if anybody tries to take a child from their brood, they get mad. They get it's an affront. It's a territorial sense of yours. And by the way, it's not that you're coming into my area. You're trying to take my brood. So let me ask you this. Do you think over a period of time that nature prefers a woman who tends to stay home more to take care of children? Do you think maybe nature tends to prefer a woman, a mother, who is not as, for lack of a better word, social as men? Men have, let me ask you this question. Let's say a man is going to throw a surprise party for his wife, okay? And you went to, let's say, your wife's best friend. Who is it? Most probably a member of the family, usually a close sister or a close friend. It would be the cheapest bill compared to a man. If a wife went to her husband's friend and said, how many of my husband's friends should I invite to the surprise party? He's got more friends than you can imagine. Now, granted, they might not be deep. They may not be, profound. But men are far more collegial. They're far more gregarious. Sorry. It's true. And if you don't know this, and there's always a woman who says, well, I've got friends. No, you don't. No, you don't. No. A woman, and I say this with all due respect, and this is so sad, more often than not, a woman's worst enemy in the workplace or in life is another woman. Usually a woman her age. There's a cutthroat backstabbing that's all too common. And you've got to stop that. Men are different, completely different. Now, granted, like I said, some of these friendships may be, less than deep. But this predisposition starts from nature kind of preferring this behavior, if that makes sense to you. It kind of prefers this behavior. So it models it. There is nothing, put it this way, if you believe in Darwin to an extent, there's some parts about Darwin I think makes a lot of sense, it's not foolproof. You understand that because of adaptation, because of shaping, because of a lot of things, we are different. Believe me, we are different. Let's go back at the phone. 800-848-9222. Alan on Long Island. You're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Hi, Lionel. Your conversation with Vincent was Nixon-Frostonian. Tremendous. Give yourself a round of applause. Great.
He's a great man. I love him.
Oh, he's tremendous. The thing is, when it comes to, like, you might call it a stereotype or anything, and I'm not going to use any stereotypes in this call, but a certain ethnic group was used in movies for gangsters. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And it was just done, I think, because they felt it had an appeal. But if you really look at it, like, I mean, what was Whitey Bulger doing up in Winter Hill? Teaching Sunday school catechism to wayward girls? You know, so we know anybody could have fit that role. And I also look at it this way, too. You talk about people ripping the joint up after a team wins a championship and everything. They do it because they get away with it. And Lionel, can you get Tom Jones as a guest? It's not unusual to be loved by anyone.
Have you seen him lately? I think he's 86 or 87. He is fantastic. Let me go back a couple of things. Different stereotypes for movies and the like. If you're going to do a movie about what we would call the LCN, Cosa Nostra, Mafia, whatever you want to call it, the life, in an organization that has as its a requirement that you be of Sicilian or some type of heritage, and that can be very... Do you know that the number of Jewish actors who played interchangeably with Italian actors, and also the amount, I thought it was so funny, in Hogan's Heroes, the number of Germans who were Jewish actors. But here's the thing. If I want to, I'm not going to find a lot of Swedes who are in the Mafia. I'm just not. So consequently, if I want to have something that looks like The Sopranos, I'm going to get people who not only have a particular, maybe the name or the look, but who understands the essence of it. By the way, there's another thing too. Whenever you talk about movies, remember Charlie Chan, Werner Oland, Swede. I thought, I don't know if that's racist or not, but do you mean to tell me you can't find a Chinese actor? And Key Luke was his number one son. But there was something wrong with that. That always bothered me. It's like a version almost of blackface. Alan, I thank you for your call. This is something which, again, I always err, or rather, I get away from the notion of people being offended. I'm a realist. The only thing I tell you is that what I'm telling you is true. You may not like it. It may not be something you're proud of. It may not be something that we want to glorify. But what I'm saying is absolutely true. And you'll never hear me come up with an idea where you say to yourself, where the hell did you get that from? Oh, I got it from someplace. You just may not like that because people love to dupe themselves into thinking that everybody is identical. We are not identical. And that's good. That's simple. 800-848-9222. And also coming up, how we delude ourselves in terms of thinking. You're going to love this, I find. This is Another Side of Midnight. This is Lionel. The number one more time, 800-848-9222.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
He still can sing. 86 or 87 now. Sounds better than ever. Another Side of Midnight with you, Lionel, 800-848-9222. Have you ever heard people give you statistics that you don't like, that they will immediately get rid of? For example, if I were to show you, what about crime? If you look at the U.S. violent crime rate, Harvard studies, I can give you this shouldn't shock you, homicide, robbery, disproportionately higher among blacks based upon FBI, UCR data, victimization studies. Much of the arrest disparity aligns with self-reported offender identification data through policing and justice systems. Here's one for you. This is from ResearchGate. This was a meta-analysis. This one, people hate this. This is a meta-analysis of American race differences in intelligence. Meta-analyses of hundreds of thousands show average differences with white mean at 100, East Asians 105, whites 100, Hispanics 89, and according to this ResearchGate, blacks 82 to 85. These hold across IQ tests, SAT, military testing, with similar variances across groups. The gaps have not closed substantially since the 60s and 70s. Now, when you tell somebody this, and again, I didn't make this up. I will give it to you. It's ResearchGate. You can read it. The meta-analysis is there. People go berserk. They absolutely go berserk. What about the book Bell Curve? Bell Curve was incredible. This was Charles Murray. The Bell Curve, this is one of the most controversial social science books ever published, ever. It was by Charles Murray and Richard Herrnstein, and the book makes several major claims. They're still talking about it. One, intelligence, as measured by IQ tests, is a meaningful and measurable trait. And the authors argue that IQ correlates with many life outcomes, including educational attainment, income, occupational status, likelihood of poverty, crime rates, welfare dependence. IQ is substantially heritable. And they argue that genetics plays a significant role in intelligence, though they acknowledge environmental influence as well. Next, IQ is substantially heritable. I think I said that. 3, American society is becoming more cognitively stratified. And the book claims that highly educated and high IQ individuals increasingly marry one another and cluster socially and economically, creating what the authors call a cognitive elite. Then IQ predicts outcomes and independent of social class. And what's interesting is when you go through the actual findings, people will, as you can imagine, take great umbrage at the finding rather than asking, is it true? So what I'm saying is simply this. It's just a very simple question. Remember, averages are, it's statistics, means, and median. But if there is, for example, a difference that you can see in looks, height, hair color, eye shape, epicanthus, nose structure, ears, musculature. I remember one time we were at a place in, I think it was St. Paul, and I had never been there before. So I'm having with my friend's, her husband, he's a friend too. Anyway, and he said, I want you to look around. What do you notice about these Minnesota types? And I looked. I said, I don't really notice. He says, they're all huge. I said, oh my God, you're right. They're Vikings. They're like from Norse ancestry. These people were just huge. I wasn't paying attention. That's the beauty of population clusters and the like. Nobody took offense at that. Nobody. It's one of those things where, unless you, I mean, it's funny. So what I'm saying is, if an Asian can look different, if if the difference between an African American, an Asian, Hispanic, you can look at people. In fact, when you are giving a description to the police, what do you look like? Think it was a Hispanic male, Asian male. Sometimes you can't really tell. Asian, black, light-skinned, biracial. You know these. You know these things by virtue of how you've lived and what you've seen. And for you to pretend they don't exist is absurd. Let's go back to the phones. Back to the phone. Let's go to Nick in Virginia. Nick, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Hey, Lionel. Long time no talk.
Hey, Nick. How are you, sir?
I'm great.
Good.
When you started talking about difference between people, we're all different. It made me think of Lobster Boy. Whenever
Grady Stiles.
we had our, excuse me,
Grady Stiles. Lobster Boy.
So I'm sure you do know about him and his tragic
He was from
life.
Florida. He was we prosecuted him. Grady Stiles. He had electrodactyly. This is split hand or split foot malformation. He was in the circus. In '92, he was murdered in a case involving his wife and her boyfriend hiring a gunman, and he was a very violent. Lobster Boy. Yep. Anyway, go ahead, sir.
Well, I didn't know that about him, but when I was a kid, right after school left out the first week of June, we had our Fireman's Carnival, and he was there every year, maybe for about 5 years, and I got to see him when he was young. And
what did he do?
When I first saw him, well, it wasn't much. It cost 25 cents. And he just sat there, and he explained his condition, but not really. It was like, because they build him up, the guy out on the speaker. He's half lobster, he's half man. And you get in there. And
what made you think of Grady? I'm just curious.
Well, you said the differences between people. We're all different.
Yes, that's true.
And I thought, well, there's nobody more different than Lobster Boy.
That is correct, sir. That is correct. Interesting how you went to Lobster Boy.
Yeah, it was just he made an impression on me when I was young. I felt so sorry for him, and he had a can of beer behind him, and my dad was an alcoholic, so I could relate to that. But
do you know
had no
that
happiness.
There was a group of people, John Ringling, for his Kadzan, his famous kind of a mansion on Sarasota Bay next to the Ringling Museum. He was, of course, Barnum and Bailey's, and summer, Florida was their summer retreat. There was a place outside of Hillsborough County called Gibsonton. And Gibsonton still has a variety, maybe not as much now, but there was a time when this is where all of the circus performers, the freaks, people who were hirsute and hair, and people whose color of the face was dyed, what am I saying? But were blue skinned, and midgets, for lack of a better word, tall people. So they lived there, and my friend actually had no idea, was passing through, was doing something outside of Tampa, outside of Hillsborough County, and showed up at Gibsonton and went into this bar, and he walked in. And the best part about it was that he had no idea, but it was the Star Wars bar scene. Imagine, you don't know this, but you walk into a bar and there's circus performers, but you don't expect to see it. But all of a sudden you see somebody who's 3 feet tall, somebody who's 8 feet tall, somebody who's, it's this incredible thing. But these are people, by the way, who only found satisfaction there. And they were the rarest of the rare. Think about that one. and they all lived in harmony for the most part. But Grady was a different story.
Yeah. Well, can I say one more thing, Lionel?
Indeed, sir.
I had an old friend that once told me, he said, if you think all men are created equal, you've never taken a shower in the county jail.
Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, I guess, if you're looking at other men, you're not all equal.
Do you find yourself looking at other men?
Absolutely
I'm just kidding
not.
you. I'm kidding you.
Well, yeah, I do, but not naked.
Yeah, right, exactly. Thank you, my friend. Don't ever change. I mean, that's
You're
sincere.
welcome.
800-848-9222. Let's go instead to, let me see, let's go to Peter in, I guess, New Jersey. Peter, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Yeah, hi, Lionel. I was thinking comically tonight about the hundreds of thousands of PhDs, doctors of philosophy, coming out of universities. And I thought that all of us WABC listeners, if we got us college credits for listening, it would add up and would have hundreds of thousands of more PhDs.
Mm-hmm.
And then we could add to the Sermon on the Mount, blessed or the stupid.
Peter, I thank you so much, and I ask you again to call me in the future. You are wonderful. Thank you, sir. Anthony in New York, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel. Anthony? Anthony once? Anthony twice. Okay, let's go to Tom in Chicago. Tom, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Hey, what's going on, Lionel? I love
Nothing,
these
sir.
kind of conversations, man. It's right here.
Good.
But, people get emotional when you start talking like this. And I'm black, so...
What?
Yeah, it's crazy. But think about this. Who doing the judging, though? Like you say, basketball, right? Be tall or this, that. Before blacks was let into basketball, we was playing basketball.
Right.
So when it's like, oh, bring him over here, but it was like he's good at it,
Right.
so we were shunned in it, right?
Right.
So once it's like the discovery of like football. Oh, we couldn't be quarterbacks. So now you look in the league now, it's like everybody's black quarterback. So that's what I'm saying. It's like it's always been here. It's just when you get the person opportunity to show those things. Even when you say swimming. Now in America, yeah. But if you go to other places, you can throw I'm pretty sure you go cruise ships, they throw you see that people throw quarters and stuff in the ocean, and these kids deep dive and go get them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like where? Like NBA they're doing a change now where they're going to get white players from other countries. You see what I'm saying?
No, but what I'm saying is in the United States, there has never been this is I've often said there is absolutely nothing about buoyancy or it doesn't work like that. It doesn't.
No,
it doesn't work.
That's what I say. It doesn't work like that. I agree.
No,
I
but
agree.
wait a minute. Same thing about black folks, perhaps playing hockey. That has nothing to do. That's another one too. Or black singers in country music, which is another problem. But let me tell you though,
it was blacks in country music. It was blacks in country music though. It's just like.
But wait a minute. But you do know though that in the cities, the number of there is a black kids don't have the same opportunities. In fact, there was an inordinate amount of black kids drowning.
There we go.
And
there
then
we go.
there was this like almost, I don't know what it was. Maybe you would know. You might know something more about this, but it was almost like a cultural thing against swimming or pools or I don't know what. So there was a concerted effort to prevent drownings by teaching black kids, like all kids, how to swim. And is there any truth to that?
But see, that's the thing I don't get. In the inner city of Chicago right now, the pool's getting ready to open. If you go to any black neighborhood, the pools are filled with kids, and they go. It's past 9 feet. That's why it's like the stereotype again that says, "Oh, you don't want to swim." Look at bobsledding, right? Jamaican bobsledding.
The Jamaicans. Remember the Jamaicans?
You know what I'm saying? Right. Jamaicans bobsledding team. So who does the judging on that? Who's saying, "Oh, now they're better now"? It's always been here. And it's like you just letting the opportunity position itself, and people take advantage of it. Take the opportunity and do these things, and people, oh, look at it. I didn't know you can read. I didn't know you can do this. I didn't know you can do that. You know what I'm saying? Until you give an opportunity, like CEOs right now. CEOs doing all these crazy things. How many black CEOs do you see or hear about if it ain't pertaining to music? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like the opportunity ain't there. So when you get one, you be like, oh, look, they can do it. They can do it.
It's also, if you're a different person, for example, if you're, let's assume somebody who's looking at the NBA rosters, and the NBA, say somebody who's into kinesiology and physics and, training, and looks out and says, what do you notice? Now, most people say, oh, black people. But what if somebody who knows says, well, I see a group of people with different muscle twitch or muscle this, or somebody who has a different, I'm looking at the length of this. They may not even notice color at all. They may be looking at something which is
like melatonin and non-melatonin, right?
Yeah, right.
Here it is. You walk around Chicago in the wintertime. It'd be like white babies with no hat on. And they're like, oh, he looks so cute. He's got rosy cheeks. The baby cold. The teeth chattering. You know what I'm saying?
Rosy. Rosy. Right, exactly.
Rosy cheeks. He was like, he's cold.
Right.
But it's like, you train the baby to grow up to be used to the cold, basically. You know what I mean? And I used to always like, man, why you do that? You see a grown woman and men with hats on, but the kids don't have no hat on.
There is a I don't want to mention their name. I think you would know them, but from Tampa we had a lot of great baseball players. Dwight Gooden and Lou Piniella and Tony La Russa and Wade Boggs and Tino Martinez and Dave Magadan. A lot of them went to these two different high schools. They were all there. But I knew this one family, and one of them was he's a baseball player, and I swear to God, Tom, you would think whoever made their arms, it's like their arms were longer, and it's like, and I thought to myself, they were freaks until somebody gave them a baseball and said, look at the torque, and it's like they were like the greatest athletes ever. Now, if it wasn't for that talent, you'd put him in a carnival. You'd say, what the hell's the matter with this guy? He can't go to his jacket must be custom made. These long arms. But we have these different these things. It's funny about how sickle cell was an adaptation that black populations had to account for or to ward against malaria.
Yeah.
But then when they moved elsewhere to higher elevations, it was counterproductive. There's just there's Tay-Sachs and Jewish but if you but what I'm trying, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I get what you're saying, but think about this: when you say like the behavior training, like why does people act like this? Is it a trait? Like when you basically say pedophile.
Mm-hmm.
Is it mainly white men that does that? Is that like a trait? You hear that a lot. Even when I watch CSI and these criminal shows, the first thing they say, I know it's for the TV ratings, maybe, but I'm like, no, wait. Even to catch a predator, most of them guys will be white.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And in fact, not only that, most predators are male, and I guarantee you, there hasn't been, if you had the number of serial killers, forget it.
Right.
Now, the thing is, so listen to this. What if I said to you, why do you think there was such a low propensity or proportion or propinquity, I guess, for black people to be serial killers? Now, one thing the optimists would say, well, they don't have that antisocial trait. They don't have that vindictive animus that would hurt, or if you were not inclined, you would say they don't have the organizational skills of your more prolific killers. It's like, wait a minute, what? Same thing with women. Now let's stop all this for a moment. Forget black and white. That's boring.
But forget the black and white.
Men and women. That is the greatest of them all. I don't care who you are. Anybody, black, white, Asian, men and women. So when I see people, a man who walks around and says, I'm a woman now, I'm feigning menstruation, I'm going to have a mammoplasty. But no, you're not a woman. Don't even. Don't.
Lionel, you got girls?
No.
You have any daughter? Okay. Think about this. Most of the time, a lot of time, from what I see, women act that way because father's in the home. I got 3 girls, right? So it's like we kind of like raise them to be crazy. Like, say your boy get a medal or something like that. You don't be like, sometimes you're like, oh, yeah, that's what you need to do. You're supposed to do that. But with that girl, you better clap. You know what I'm saying? You better clap, cheer on. Oh, she can make you a pie or a cake, and it's nasty as hell. And you got to say, oh, this is great. Feed the ego. So now she's going with this ego that says, I can do anything. Nobody judged me. Nobody does this.
Well, that's very interesting because that's the how do I say this? That is the same argument against people giving trophies to people who don't earn it. But what I'm saying is, aside from this, all you have to do is just watch girls and boys without any prompting. Just watch them. And if you don't see differences, if you're not paying attention, there's something
big
in
difference.
it. Yes. And also, let me ask you something. Do you know there's this, let me just say something. There's this idea that says that when you are asleep, when you're doing REM sleep, when you are sleeping, you will, for the most part, have, how do I say this? You will be paralyzed so that you can't act out. You can't act out your dreams. When you're in REM sleep, rapid eye movement, your body's paralyzed because it doesn't want you acting out. Now, the reason why I think not that they made men stronger than women, I think they made women weaker. Because let me ask you this: can you imagine if you took the the anger disposition of women and gave them superhuman strength at the same time? You would have
you would have linebacker Barbie. That's what you have. That's what you have. That's what you're forming.
You would have some, but you would not have a serial killer. But let me ask you this: if women ruled the world, what would wars look like? Would we have the same numbers? Would the world look the same? Would you have, for example, whenever you have ads for joining the Marines, it's always, the snare drum and some guy hit the deck and machine guns. If women were the combatants, what would it sound like?
See, now we're getting into male chauvinism now, because here it is with women, they'll be like, okay, we got these colors for our uniforms.
I don't. What I'm saying is, I do not think that there would be I think they would be certainly aggressive, but I don't think they would necessarily want to destroy, kill, and maim as quickly as men do. I would say,
if it's another woman,
let me ask you this.
Like you said, if they going to get another woman that's in another country, right. I think then, like you just got through saying before, it becomes like brutal then, real.
Let me ask
crazy.
you this: changing the subject, just for a second. Have you seen, like for example, if two men meet? Like if we're having a drink and a friend of mine comes up and says, "Hey, it's my friend Tom. Hey, how are you?" It's always hey, it's almost like deliberate niceness. Have you ever seen two women meet for the first time? The way they look at each other up and down. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, it's crazy.
Oh, it is a look of. It is almost like
when you go somewhere, like you say, your wife can say, "Hey, let's go to my friend's house." You say, "Hey, this is Tom. You just met him. Just met me.
Right.
Hey, this is Tom.
Right.
Hey, how's it going? We sit down. We can have a great time."
Right. Yes.
Now you can say for the same move and say, "Hey, we going over to Tom's house."
Right.
And have your wife come in and it's like, wait a minute, I got to fill it out. I just can't do it. You know, you're like, what happened? What's going on? I just can't. You know, they had this. I mean, she tried to do this to me. And I'm like, no, she didn't. You know what I'm saying? And it's always like this,
but it's also
thing that goes in their head, man. I don't know. That's this right here.
What about this one? Here's another one. This is very.
Story.
This is not. By the way, this is not chauvinistic. This is perhaps maybe stereotypical. Two people are in a bar. Watch two men. They're kind of apart. How's it going? Great. How's he? Terrific. How's the family? Great. Fantastic. Your job is awful. Your kids are driving you crazy. But we always say great. We don't say. Now, watch two women. And the first one is they'll lean in and they'll say like, well, how did that make you feel? You're not going to believe what happened. What happened? And they get closer and they almost like confide. Now, we're almost projecting everything's great, everything's terrific, we're great. Women have no problem in telling each other exactly what the problem is.
Because
I gotta leave you with this one thing.
They pay attention. They pay attention to detail. Have you ever say, like, my wife would come in and say, "I'm going to the store," and I say, "Okay." But if I don't ask what store, what you getting, this right here, and she asks, I can say, "I didn't know you was going to ask." Well, you didn't ask. There's detail with them.
Now let me ask you this
one.
Final one. This is the one that is really important. In terms of the differences and how these things work. There is a tendency for I see this is observation and nothing else. There is a reason why they are different. And the reason why they're different, I still think it goes back to the fact that nature has given them, whether they have children or not, the ability to be mothers, to protect the brood. And consequently, they do not necessarily want to be they're not as gregarious and as friendly towards others. But if you want to have a juror and you say, who's telling the truth? Who's watching? Women are the best. Absolutely.
Now, we sit here and ask, now let's think about this. Kindergarten, right? Where you need a nurturing kindergarten teacher. I had asked my wife, hey, would you rather a gay dude teach your kid or a woman? She said it doesn't matter. I said, yes, it does. You know, it matters because that woman, to me, is more nurturing. Like you say, she knows her group. She just, it's just this mom thing, that internal mom thing that kicks in. You know, and with us, we have to be taught. With a gay dude, he doesn't have that quality that
well,
woman has.
let me leave you with this. I think what you're saying is this: a gay man is primarily a man. The gay is secondary. The male and female, that's the bottom line. Tom, I've enjoyed it, my friend. Please call me again. This is Lionel with you, 800-848-9222, and this is Another Side of Midnight.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Wow. Scritti Politti. New Way, or I found a new. Scritti Politti, these were communists. Scritti Politti was an Italian magazine dedicated to communist ideology. Way to go there, Bill, playing commie music. This was a great... And, Bill, here's another one you probably don't know. A little trivia for you. Guess who covered this song? Miles Davis. How do you like them apples? Scritty Politi. I found a new way or a different way. I found a. There we go. A better way. Okay, right. Listen to Miles Davis do this. I love them. It's not very complex. Excellent. By the way, next time you're going to find some. Remember that Montego Bay? Who did this? Bobby Bloom. We should do this. Ready for this? We should do a show on white singers who sounded authentically black, not faux soul. There we go. This is a white Jamaican. Or what? Listen to this. Sounds like Richie Havens in a way. It's a white dude. David Clayton Thomas, Bill Champlin, Bill Medley, people who had their own, not that they mimic black soul voice, but sounded like it. And to me, there is no greater compliment. This is another one too. And I don't care what anybody says. Sometimes I don't know if it's the timbre. I don't know. I don't know how you can hear sometimes. I remember during the O.J. trial, Christopher Darden, somebody was testifying, and Darden was the prosecutor along with Marsha Clark, and somebody said, well, who said it? He said, well, I don't know. I said, but I just heard his voice. It was a black guy. And Christopher Darden said, oh, can you tell if somebody's black by their voice? He said, yeah, not always, but yeah. And he said, really? And he said, yeah, can't you? And now this is where people pretend that we have no differences. We pretend. Here's the real test. I've always wanted to do this experiment, and I don't know how to do it. I don't know if there's a plethysmograph or some kind of a way of testing it, but you go to a new doctor. I don't know how you would do this, but just work with me. You go to a new doctor. You don't know who the doctor is. Maybe it's a suite. Maybe it's a bunch of, like at a hospital, you don't know who you get. The door opens up. First doctor is it looks like Marcus Welby. You know, Robert Young. The second one looks like Ben Carson. Okay. Third, Asian. Let's say Chinese. Young, old. Imagine that. Young black, old black, young white, young black. Woman black, woman Asian. What would your reaction be in terms of, before you even ask anything, your initial reaction in terms of, and however it measures, in initial trust or satisfaction, if that makes any sense, based upon completely stereotypical cultural biases. I love that stuff. Tell me the truth, even if the truth's uncomfortable. Hour number 3 coming up on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Alrighty, Lionel with you. Our number is 800-848-9222. This is Another Side of Midnight. You know, one of the greatest inventions in my lifetime, first of all, was the idea of... It was Pandora one time, but Spotify, and I just love I've found so much great music where it's able to anticipate kind of what you're looking for. It's the greatest thing in the world. And I program my own radio, my own music, I don't need, a person telling me about it, though you can if you want, but It's the greatest thing I've ever seen. It's the only bad part about it is that we're not enjoying, speakers and high fidelity and woofers and tweeters, because it's all headphones. But anyway, but thank God for that. It's just, my God, it's opened my world. And then YouTube came along. And I remember one time asking on radio, one of my topics was, is there something, keeping in view of this topic, is there something about the guitar, electric guitar, make it simple. And I'm a guitar player, but I'm more acoustic, bluegrassy. But anyway, but I said, is there something about the guitar that is male? Why are there no great female shredders or guitar players or whatever it is? Okay, now this is before YouTube. And we used to think, and Bonnie Raitt didn't count, and Orianthe was, but it just, we didn't know about anything. Well, enter YouTube. And we're hearing the greatest stuff anybody has ever heard. And where women have really gone, I mean, not just good in comparison to men, but I mean better, is bass, electric bass. I can't believe what I'm seeing. I'm seeing Japanese funk bands that I would have never known about. And had I just listened to regular radio or regular TV, where, for whatever reason, female guitar players never, made it. So then I asked the question, why aren't there more female talk radio hosts? Why? This is what we used to say in the old days. Terrestrial radio and even before satellite radio. Do they even have satellite? The satellite, I know there's Sirius, but does that even count? Anyway, it doesn't matter. So we used to think that. I say, well, the reason is because of such and such. Well, now because of YouTube, there are more great females you can imagine. And I'm telling you right now, the most powerful woman on any kind of platform right now is Candace Owens. Period. End of discussion. I don't care whether you like her or not. She's explosive. A black woman, and nobody even thinks about her gender or her race. It doesn't even matter. Okay, so we're seeing that. So what I'm saying is we're seeing that a lot of these stereotypes just are being blown apart. Let me give you another one. I used to do stand-up comedy every weekend for years. And that's a very it's a weird group of people. But anyway, beside the point. So one day I was talking to a club owner, and it was at the time when Rosie and I think Ellen were both either coming out or something. Yeah, they were coming out at the time. And this club owner said, everybody knows they're gay. But maybe somebody, for example, in the Midwest doesn't know. So we were talking about this. I said, well, why do you think that is? He says, well, and this was his theory, and I do not necessarily abide by this, but he said, most women in stand-up are gay. Now, again, I'm not, that's absurd. But his theory was, he said the reason why is because stand-up is very aggressive. It's very male, very in your face. Here I am. Listen to me. Blah. Well, thanks to YouTube and the great equalizer, that's not true. There are, scores of top comics who are women who are not gay. This was the great equalizer. I live in an area where, kind of on the west side, and there's, Power Station, and there's all these, what used to be these great recording studios. It's not recording studios anymore, because now you've got recording studios at home. And there was a time in the old days when if you wanted to go on a radio station, you had to position a radio station in one town. There were just a handful of them. And you would send in a tape, and if they didn't hire you, you didn't go anywhere. Now, the great equalizer, you've got people who are just blowing the world apart. Blowing the world apart. And they're from their bedroom. So what I'm saying is, when you open up your eyes and you get a better sample, you realize by virtue of this is that every stereotype you thought doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. And the more you learn about other people, the smarter it makes you. Absolutely. 800-848-9222. Let's go to Frankie in Queens. You're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Fancy Word User. I love you, man.
How are you, sir?
Before I get to my subject, are you going to be going back to the cutting room at any time soon?
One never knows, sir, but yes, certainly.
All right, because I look forward to seeing you in person again. I saw you years ago. Listen, I just want to remind everybody that today is actually U.S. Flag Day. I encourage everybody to try to display an American flag on their home, if possible.
What does that mean? What does one do on Flag Day?
Well, some of us have a parade. I participated in a parade, and today I will be with the Knights of Columbus out in Oceanside, and they have this big patriotic Flag Day function, with food, drink, and so on and so forth. And
it's a very interesting. It's a very interesting. The study of flags. Their history is called vexillology, which is interesting. But Flag Day, the history behind Flag Day? Flag Day is observed every year on June 14th, and it commemorates the adoption of the first American flag by the Second Continental Congress on June the 14th, 1777. And the resolution described a flag with 13 alternating red and white stripes and 13 white stars on a blue field representing a new constellation. So Flag Day became an official national observance when Woodrow Wilson proclaimed June the 14th as Flag Day in 1916, and Congress formally established National Flag Day in 1949 under Truman, and it is not a federal holiday, meaning most businesses are open. And there's also an interesting coincidence. June 14th is also the birthday of the United States Army, founded in 1775, 2 years before the adoption of the flag. How about that?
And today is also our dear President's 80th birthday. So happy birthday, Mr. President.
God bless him.
That's good.
God bless him.
That's good.
Thank you, my good friend. Thank you. Please call me again. I appreciate it. 800-848-9222. 800-948... I'm so tired. 848-9222. I'm not really tired. It's when you talk like this, you've got a million things going on in your head. And I always like to tell somebody, you think this is easy? Sit down and do this. Just try it. Just think about what you're saying. Most people don't ever have to articulate something other than, asking questions like, well, what do you think? What happened next? It's very, very taxing. It's very, very fun, don't get me wrong. But after you're done, your brain is like, it's like you've just taken an exam. Jesse in New Rochelle, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Hi, this is Jesse.
Yes.
So I've been listening to you for a long time because I always wake up at 3 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always respect your opinions, but I just want to know what your interpretation was about what Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson say about Jewish people.
I don't think they say anything about Jewish people. They have strong opinions about Israel, but not about Jewish people. I think they talk about the roles of, geopolitical and that sort of thing. But Jewish people, nothing.
But to Jewish people, not that I agree with everything that Israel always does, God forbid, but to Jewish people, certain slant on blaming Israel for everything is feels like it's against Jewish people.
Well, the problem is, if you want to read some interesting things, if you look at what they say in Haaretz, this is in Israel, these are Jewish people, you would not believe how strong their opinions are sometimes about either Netanyahu or Israeli, not Jewish, Israeli position. So I thank you for your call.
I actually read that, and I read some of that, and I agree with a lot of what they say, but when we feel from Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens is a little bit different than that.
Well, have they ever said anything about Jewish people, that Judaism is wrong or Jewish people are wrong, or versus the government of Israel?
But it depends on the slant from which you're approaching it.
Well, it also depends on how you see it. You're right about that. But if somebody were to say, and by the way, I thank you for your call. The same thing as if you were to say, for example, that you don't believe, let's say, in our position regarding Ukraine and the acceptance of Ukraine, or the acceptance of a NATO version of Ukraine, and that's more difficult to explain. It's almost the same ideology. American involvement or whatever it is, it depends upon your slant. I will say this, and you've got to be very, very careful. There are people who absolutely, positively, 100% are truly anti-Semitic. They are against Jewish people, Judaism, absolutely. Just like there are racists, there are anti-Catholics, without a doubt. This is sometimes different. Sometimes the two are melded together. If somebody disagrees with a particular policy, many of them, by the way, who are themselves Jewish, you can't really call them anti-Semitic. So it's a very careful, put it this way, very precarious position to be in. So you have to watch what you say, but then again, know what you're talking about. Let's go to Rob in White Plains. Rob, you're on the other side of midnight with Lionel.
Love you, Lionel. Listen, talking about things Jewish, the Yiddish term for the term chutzpah, H-U-T-S-P-A. I don't know how to spell it, but chutzpah. Right. I looked it up in the New American Dictionary of synonyms. You know what the synonym for chutzpah was?
What?
Warrior Wednesday on Saturday morning.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Have a good day, sir. 800-848-9222. I've heard of chutzpah, C-H-U, chutzpah, not hubris. That's a wonderful word. It's a wonderful... That's very interesting. I'm going to do a little bit of delving. In fact, let me see this just for a second, because I normally like to look at the derivation. Chutzpah. This is Yiddish word meaning audacity, nerve, gall, or shameless boldness. It can also be used positive for he had chutzpah to start a company with no money, meaning, or negative after causing a problem. He had the chutzpah. It's interesting. It's like the word aloha. It either means hello or goodbye, depending upon the particular context of what you are using. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. This is Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Any man can be a father, but it takes someone special to be a dad. This Father's Day, Red Apple Audio Networks celebrate the man who has always been there with a card that says what words sometimes can't.
So, the question is, what does Father's Day mean to me? Well, an opportunity to say thank you to my dad, the best dad, Ray Kelly. You may know him. He was great when I was a baby, I'm told. When I was a kid, I know. And right up until today, my best friend.
Walter Sterling, what does Father's Day mean to me? It means to me absolutely nothing different than Mother's Day because it looks the same. On Mother's Day, I take care of the kids to give Mom a break. And on Father's Day, Mom says, hey, you get to spend the whole day with the kids. Happy Father's Day, Walter Sterling.
Dad, thank you for your strength, your guidance, and your unconditional love. Happy Father's Day.
No young person should ever have to worry about having a safe place to sleep at night, or a warm meal to eat, or whether anyone cares about them.
But the reality is, 1 in 10 young adults will experience a form of homelessness this year.
But the good news is, there's an organization making a big difference. Covenant House.
For over 50 years, Covenant House has been helping youth in crisis and giving them the support and the tools they need to succeed in life.
I have no words to express.
This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Crystal Blue Persuasion. Mr. James, right? Our number 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. I love the idea of traits, and I love the idea of somebody saying there's this idea that some people might be good for something based upon either a trait inherent or culturally or I asked somebody one time, I said, "You ever see a Chinese homeless person in New York?" They said, "No." I said, "Why is that?" And they looked at him, "I don't know." I said, "Well, think about it. Why not? Why is that true?" One time, I went to a thing, Lucha Libre, at Madison Square Garden. Well, actually, one of the little smaller theaters. But it was Mexican, Mexican wrestling. And I was there with a friend of mine, and I said, "This may be crazy." I said, "But I don't see a bald-headed Mexican here. Is there anything, perhaps, any type of trait or some type of genetic predisposition against baldness?" And if you think about it, just look. And I was with a friend of mine. I said, "Just look. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that something? Isn't that odd? Isn't that unique?" There are traits. Who was it? George Carlin says, he says, "You don't read too many Chinese guys named Rusty." Let's go to Sean in Boston. Sean, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Thank you, Lionel. And I think sometimes we stereotype, but I think in life you're better off being lucky, just pure, unadulterated luck. Now,
what do you mean?
Yeah, but I'd like to say, in 2020 during the virus, a lot of Republicans were downplaying the COVID virus and everything. And then Trump comes down with it. And Trump had it pretty bad because he needed oxygen. And then 3 weeks ago, Trump goes to China, and the guy who sent the virus over here, who gave it to him, he's toasting him, the butchers of Beijing and the Chinese communists who sent the virus over here. I think that it looked kind of weird. Like I think China looks at us like Saturday Night Live when it was in its heyday, and they laugh their heads off and everything, talking about little green Martians and this and that, and blaming people for things. It always seems to be something that becomes automatically comical.
This is, first of all, this is a very blanket. Little green Martians, what does that mean?
Well, this thing with the releasing of UFO files and aliens. I mean, I know it's BS. It's total nonsense. It's just more bread and circuses. But when Putin
why do you think that? Why do you think that?
Because I think because it's a way of distracting everybody. That's
no,
why.
But why do you?
Why
why is this not true?
Because it's not true, because they don't have any aliens in the air. I call it Studio 54. I know it's
Let me ask you this.
But go ahead.
How do you know this?
Because we would have known about it years ago if there was anything. There is nothing there. And that's why they can't show us anything.
Stop for a second. Stop. I want to take this. You have to continue this. When you say they would have shown us this before, who are they? What are you talking about?
We are they. The government. There's nobody has ever seen a space alien. Like I said, I call it Studio 54. It's Area 51.
No, wait. You're talking too much. Let's finish your. You're saying that nobody has ever seen an alien, or an alien craft. Are you sure you said? Did you really say that?
That's correct. There's no space alien, and there are no.
No.
alien
That's not what I
crafts.
said. See, you're not listening to what I'm saying, and I appreciate it. This is very important. You're saying nobody has ever seen this. Nobody has ever seen either an alien craft. Anybody's ever had contact with it. You said it's never happened. Is that what you're saying?
It's never happened. Listen,
how do you know that?
The National Enquirer used to give out a $50,000.
No, stop.
Award.
Listen, do me a favor. Listen, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be, but focus on this. I keep asking you a question, and you're not answering me, and it's very important. How do you know this?
Because no one's ever seen one. No one's ever taken a picture.
Let me stop
of one.
you
No one's
again.
ever
Let me stop you again. Again, I'm not trying to be rude. You said no one has ever seen one. And I said, how do you know this? And you said, because no one's ever seen one. It's this circular kind of a logic. Yes, they have. And with all due respect, and I say this absolutely positively with respect, you have not done.
Let
me finish my thought. You have not done any research on this. You don't know what you're talking about. I say with all due respect. You have no idea. You have an anecdotal idea.
If you believe the government has a space alien in Area 51, you are as gullible and as
No,
dumb
wait a minute.
as the
Stop
day
for a
is
second.
long.
Stop for a second. What is the basis between Area 54 and S4 and Bob Lazar and Jesse Marcel and what Stanton Friedman has said? Believe me when I say this, and I know you're a good person. You don't know what you're talking about. You're like drive-by. You have this kind of this idea like, that sounds like a caca maybe. You've never investigated this, never researched. And I thank you for your call. This is the part, and again, did you hear the logic? Some people do not want to believe it. Therefore, they will couch everything as they said, the government would have told us this. Do you believe the government has told us the truth about anything? Anything. Why would the government tell us the truth about anything? Has the government told us the truth about JFK, RFK, 9/11, COVID, Epstein? Want me to continue? And when you say the government, who is the government? Do you know how easy it is for let me rephrase this. Why would you want your potential enemies to know that you are in possession of something that could absolutely set the world on its head? Why would you want somebody to know that? Now, they probably do. They know this. When you talk about the Cometa report, when you talk about Area 51, Roswell, the eyewitness testimony, do you remember the stories about how they went to when they found the debris? Remember what Philip Corso said and others? And all of the books, all the testimony, how they went and they threatened members of the community that if they ever said anything, if there was nothing there, what's the big deal? I mean, Edgar Mitchell. There are people, by the way, who have seen, and I don't mean craft that is just, that TikTok thing, but for the longest time. And for somebody to get an idea, just basically throw the whole thing away. Oh, and by the way, there are a lot of people who really don't know what they're talking about, and they kind of want there to be. And he said, "Little green men." We haven't used that phrase in. Oh, they're very real, absolutely. Now, not everybody who makes the claim is correct, but there have been people. And not only that, there have been abductions. Betty and Barney Hill. Absolutely, positively. Look at the story behind it about Betty and Barney Hill, about what John Mack and others have done. This is the Harvard psychiatrist who put a lot of people under hypnosis. See, when somebody comes along and they don't know anything, they really know nothing about it. It's like, for example, whenever I've always talked about the claims of 9/11. People don't know anything about that. I mean, I'm serious. And they look at me and they say, really? I say, well, yeah. You know this, right? No. And then they say, but I would have known this. And I said, do you think that anybody on a cable news show is going to dare even get near this? They lied to you about COVID. Remember this? They're lying to you about geoengineering. They can't tell you. They are in fear of losing the last bastion, the last connector. It's going bye-bye. And instead of being more aggressive and saying, listen, we're going to be overtaken by digital platforms who speak far more boldly than this, we have to come out and say something. They don't do it. They don't do it. They were the ones when Bezos sent that little toy rocket ship up with the phony doors. They didn't even question that. It's just, it just blows my mind. And by the way, Spielberg, I can't really figure him out. I think Spielberg knows more than people realize. And by the way, the Vatican, if it means anything to you, and there are a lot of good Catholics out there, has said repeatedly that not only is it consistent with Catholic theology, there being people from other people or entities from other planets, other systems, but that most probably they view it as almost the status of angels. And the question also is, do they have original sin? Anyway, I don't want to get too deep into that right now. But like this last caller, listen to what he said. It didn't happen because it didn't happen. And what proof do you have? Because we would have known it. Joel in California, you're on another set of Midnight with Lionel.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Lionel. Good day, sir. I have two quick stories. Second story has a subpart, but trust me, they're going to be short and sweet. Back in the early 90s, I had the pleasure of being stationed in the Republic of the Philippines for about 6 months while I was serving in the military. And I totally fell in love with the island. The people were amazing. Sweet, hospitable. They will figuratively give you their shirts off their back.
Right.
In the beginning, I was a little bit hesitant. I said, I think they just want money, blah, blah, blah. However, the longer I stayed there, I realized that they were actually genuine, caring, and loving citizens. Now, let me fast forward to last year, July. I was hospitalized for 2 weeks. And one thing I did notice, and it's true, that 97% of my nurses were Filipinos, which brings me to my point, which is I believe certain people are genetically predisposed to certain fields. Like all the nurses that took care of me, I was there for 2 weeks. All the nurses that took care of me, like I said, 97% of them were Filipino females, and they took real great care of me. Then I had a Filipino male nurse, that's 98%. Then I had a nurse from Trinidad, 99%. And then I had a Caucasian nurse, that's the 100%. But for the whole 2 weeks I was there, they took real great care of me. And, I mean, they showed gentleness, kindness. I mean,
okay, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
What is the difference between, what if somebody said, that didn't speak to Filipinos, that spoke about good nursing, who happened to be Filipino?
That is also true, sir. Yeah, you make a valid point. That is also true. Yeah, that is also true. But that was just my opinion.
No, of course it's your opinion. No, I agree. But there's also, I feel like there is this right now, there is a genius that I'm seeing, and this is from afar, I don't live there, but from what I've seen and studied and what I've heard about, in the Japanese culture, a gentility and a respect and a kind of a courtesy that we so desperately need in our country. I mean, absolutely, to the point where and they have rules about not speaking loudly on a subway, eating in public, very, very quiet. Now, interestingly enough, in fact, I was ensconced in this Ken Burns documentary on World War II. People who were in the Pacific Theater said that during the Bataan Death March, the Japanese soldiers showed a brutality they couldn't even imagine. I thought, isn't that weird? Here I am thinking, maybe, and again, I'm not trying to extrapolate anything from all that. But if also you can tell a couple of things here. Number one, the length of the culture, how old the culture is. Number two, we have a heterogeneity in our culture. There is no such thing. White people, whatever may be the norm or the majority. But if you look around, my God, are there variations of it left and right. In Japan, they look alike, they act alike, they enjoy a kind of a solidarity. They have a different attitude towards people who might not be a part of anything because there's so much diversity. Think about that.
Yes, sir.
We may have so much heterogeneity that people don't feel a part of anything. Where I don't know. I'm just always trying to think about that. That's all.
No, and you make a valid point, sir, because, like I said, I hate to bring up my military service again. However, when I was in boot camp, all they preached to us was, the Japanese were bastards, blah, 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 WW2. And mind you, of course, it is history, Bataan Death March, all that other stuff. However, once again, I had the pleasure of being stationed in Okinawa 3 times, 6 months tours. I did 3 6-month tours in Okinawa. And every citizen I met in Okinawa was nothing but the most decent people I ever met, the most humblest people I ever met. I would go into
restaurants. What was the year of this? What year was this?
I went. My first tour was in '86. Second tour was in '87. Third tour was in '89.
Okay, so this wasn't like during Vietnam or okay.
No, sir. Yeah, but like I said, they were just the most kindest and the most humblest people. And like you said, you go into a Japanese restaurant. Although Okinawans consider themselves different from Japanese, but
right.
But
there's also
Okinawans.
But a couple of things which is very important also. There are people who, during war, you find people who are fighting for their life, like, for example, Vietnam. They did not see us at all as wonderful liberators. We were the enemy. And they were a most formidable opponent. And they were protecting their country land, whether you like it or not. They were a different kettle of fish. Once that was removed, now today, Vietnam, think about this. This is the tourism is just incredible. People go, this is a communist country, theoretically. This was our enemy, no problem. And we get along with them, no problem. Welcome. And yet, not too long ago, we wanted to kill each other. Look at Northern Ireland. They are people who are virtually, identical. With the exception of Catholics and, Protestants. But they're right there. And even they can show incredible inhospitability towards each other, depending upon the situation. I thank you very much, sir, for your call. I truly do. I asked a friend, I'm not going to tell you, but he's an old high school buddy, and he does a travel business. I said, tell me the great places to go. He says, but tell me the countries you don't want to go to ever again. I don't want to give you the list, but it was very interesting. I don't think it'd be places you'd want to go. And there might very well be people who have ways of looking at life and dispositions that we may not necessarily agree with. A code, Mr. Lee, a code, sir. But, for example, we do things that are different. Somebody told me that the French are always notoriously rude. You always heard about how rude the French are. And Other people were saying, no, we look rather rude to them. Give you an example. One of the things which they said the French hate about Americans is when you walk into their shop, it's like walking into their home and you don't say bonjour or hello or nothing. That drives them nuts. Absolutely drives them crazy. The Italians, sometimes Romans, will talk about how tourists dress. We dress like slobs. We don't have a European flair. And it's interesting, just different ways of looking at things. This is one of my favorite stories. There was a a YouTube channel of a guy who was an expat, and he fell in love with a Japanese girl, and the premise was he really loved her family and just loved them. They were so terrific. And they thought, I found a home, and these would be great in-laws, and it would be wonderful. And he thought, terrific. So I don't know how the subject came up, whether he formally asked the family or the father for her hand, or who knows. But the father basically said to him, oh, no, you don't. He said, what? He said, oh, no. You're not going to marry my daughter. No way. Why? He says, well, you're not Japanese. And he meant it respectfully. He didn't say anything rudely. He said, oh, no. This is our culture, and you're not going to come and now, granted, I'm not suggesting that this is the way everybody feels, but he made it very, very clear. And he said, come to think of it, it wasn't rude, it wasn't discourteous, it wasn't anything like that. But he said, they make a lot of sense. They make a lot of sense. And what's also very interesting is that, believe it or not, sometimes there are people who say, this is our culture, and we don't want you mucking it up. And do you have a problem with that? I don't. Not at all. Not in the least. Nothing. I see absolutely nothing. We might need a new one there, Mr. Lee. This seems to be invalid. Sorry, I don't mean to be, that's exactly the same one from last time, sir. The thing which is interesting about traits, and this is what I love, if you had to ask somebody, if you had to tell somebody, this is what America's about, this is what we believe, and if you had to really explain things to them, and they said to you, please tell me the truth. First of all, how would you say, are Americans nice people? Answer that question. Are we? The question you should follow up with that, where? Which Americans? Where? People think like America's a place, like America, Georgia. It's like, no, where? Do you want to compare somebody with Seattle to Brooklyn? Or New Orleans? Or Plano, Texas? That's my favorite to say, what do you mean America? Which America? Who? What are you talking about? Then you're going to ask the question, who runs our country? Do you think President Trump runs the show here? I'm being serious. I mean, he's got a tremendous say, no doubt. And again, happy birthday, Mr. President. But do you think the presidents of the United States run the show? You got to be kidding me. Hell no. Absolutely not. There are so many other countervailing powers. Then you're going to ask yourself, well, what do Americans think? And I would say, we're very good people, but we're just 250 years old. We're good people, but we think we know everything. And we think we say we're exceptional. And American exceptionalism is great, and I like that. But that can get you, talk about chutzpah and hubris, that can get you into problems. We're very, very good, but we do some things that are, first, we don't know about geography. Next, we don't really travel. We are a country with one of the lowest numbers of passports. We don't view international travel like others do. Now, if you're in Europe, hell, you can drive 2 hours and you're in another country with another language, another culture. We're just a good people, but we're brand new. And somebody was talking about Russia. Russia was formed theoretically in 800 so whatever it is, Common Era, or AD as you would call it. 800. Think about this. And Iran, oh my God, this is thousands of years. These are Persian. They have a perspective nobody's ever seen before. And yet, we don't really understand how this thing works. It's not because we're bad people. Look, I love my country. I think most of us do. But America to me is almost like having not a child, but a relative you love, but is a little quirky. It's a little strange. You know what I mean? In a unique way. We're very interesting. What are our traits? Oh, depends where the traits are. Wouldn't you love to take somebody from another country and say, here, let me show you something. Let me drive it around. You see what that is right there? That's an American flag, yeah. That's a Republican. Democrats don't ever show their flag. Really? Absolutely. Is that right? Absolutely. Do they hate this country? No. They're just a different breed. And then if you went and you went to different parts. See, the best part about our country, I think, is the heterogeneity. The very fact that we live in a time, in a place, where everything is so monumentally different. It's different. I don't think there's any comparison. And while I love our country, what we know about things is enough to make your head. This is my problem. A lot of times I'm thinking, does anybody really know what's going on here? Does anybody truly understand? I heard somebody talking about communism and socialism, and I swear to God, I don't think this person knew what the hell they were talking about. I really don't even think. In fact, if you try this in some European countries, they look at you and say, what are you talking about? It's weird. It's a very strange thing. Again, I love my country. The government, you can have it. No, not interested. You can have it. I don't know if I'm becoming an anarchist or I have no idea what then, but I cannot believe it's the government that always messes things up. But us and our people, and let me leave you with one thing very, very quickly. The thing that I am the most proud of, that my country gave the world, is our music. And that is something that you cannot possibly ever underestimate. We gave you the greatest music ever. And you can never take that away from us. Everything else, it's our music. 800-848-9222. This is Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Manu Dibango. Lionel with you, Another Side of Midnight. You know, my friends, I just want to again clarify something, which I think is very, very important. Because definitions are critical. There is a profound, huge difference between recognizing traits and resorting to stereotypes. Though today in our culture, I think they confuse the two. Traits are defined as tendencies or patterns or characteristics that may appear more, frequently in certain populations or demographics or cultures or groups or whatever it is. But stereotypes are rigid. They're like hardwired. There's no variations. They're rigid assumptions on individuals, regardless of who they are, and they're usually wrong. But human beings, what we do is we're always looking for natural patterns, natural traits. It's what we do. We look for patterns and trends and frequencies. And we notice that, for example, professional basketball players are unusually tall. We observe that elite marathon running is dominated by athletes from certain East African populations. This is a fact. We know that some groups have higher incidence of a genetic disease or greater lactose tolerance or different cultural traditions. And when you can recognize these facts as not being prejudiced, it's merely an observation. That's one of the things. You know, people who are great impersonators are people who really listen, and they pick up trends, and they pick up tendencies, and they pick up things that you do that most people might lose. Let's go back to Andrew, on the phones rather. Andrew in New Jersey. Andrew, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Lionel. Hey,
yes, sir.
Am I with you? Okay.
Are you with me? Yes, sir.
You went over so many topics before. It was like going all around. I had opinions on all of them. And last week, I broke my phone, and I couldn't call last week. And you were saying these things. It's not like I disagreed. I had such a totally different outlook. But Americans.
Like what?
Right? What American wear? You're saying? I lived in California for 10 years in San Francisco, right? And I noticed everybody here on the East Coast, they're so fake. Oh, they're so fake Californians. I don't find that's what it is at all. I feel it's like they have a very different, ironically, Pacific nature. And they listen to talk show. I know people are a lot more eager to like be waiting for the bus. You know, like, hey, how about that? And I mean, I went there in 2005. Cell phones wiped that out hard, but still, people are more comfortable. And we talk about crazy things. I have a lot of wild ideas. And this attitude is like, well, hey, I don't know, maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong. Who am I to tell him that? The problem is they had the same attitude with, like, their friend at work. We've all been hanging out every night for 6 months. We're going, I noticed, Jim, he's been drinking a lot. He's getting so scared. I don't know. Everybody just stop calling him. They'll just kind of cut him out because it's like it's not their place to tell him what to do. And we perceive that as fake friends, and people just do that. It's a different way, just like how the Japanese don't do confrontation. It's a very rude thing, and they're not going to tell you, I don't like, they're going to have someone, you're comfortable with tell you because they find that disrespectful. And yeah, people are all different. I'll say this one last part, so I'm going, and thank you for letting me go. Whatever people, wherever they are, I find there's this ratio roughly. And of course, I'm saying like stereotypes and culture vary a bit, but 1 to 2 out of 10, awesome, great people. 9 out of 10, horrible, can't stand it. Everybody else is somewhere in the middle there, and it's just that's people.
Yeah, but give me a hard. That's wonderful, but that's just so general. It's like I could have said that myself. That doesn't say anything. Give me a hard and fast observation. Give me an observation that somebody's going to listen to and they're going to get upset with. Be bold. Make an observation that people aren't going to like. Tell me.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, you know what? One thing you talked about before, what people see and what people believe and how things work and how they so fast and hard have strong opinions out of complete ignorance. A lot of the time that's just a basis of a necessity for their outlook. Like, with this whole disclosure thing. And, my whole life, it's probably alien statistically. I thought, I don't care. What is this? It's not relevant to me. But the things that have happened.
That's one of the most honest things you could possibly say. Is you really just say, you know what? I don't care enough to even think about it. And that's the most honest thing. I thank you for that. I'm sorry. We must run. I thank you for that. Probably one of the most honest things you can possibly say. What I find is that people who have never studied something, they have no idea what they're talking about. It's a Dunning-Kruger business. And they just speak nonsense, gibberish. In any event, Mr. Lee and Jackson, thank you so much. You are terrific, making sure, stewarding the helm. You don't hear them. You don't know they're there. But let me tell you something. Well, you should know they're there. They are the backbone of this. Thank you, my dear friends. Have a wonderful Flag Day. Happy birthday, Mr. President. We will see you next week here on Another Side of Midnight. And as I always leave you with this, remember, the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue you. Dad.
Get ready, Staten Island.
The Ferry Hawks host the Hagerstown Flying Boxcars. Tonight at 7 p.m., it's soccer night and kids glow around the bases postgame. Saturday at 6:30, it's Broadway night with postgame fireworks and Broadway rave. Sunday at 1:30, it's Military Appreciation Day and the kids run around the bases.
A great day out for the entire family. Kids run the bases after every Sunday home game. Want the best seats all season? Get more Ferry Hawks for only $63. Visit ferryhawks.com now to lock in your seats.